Casablanca, downtown. Morning sun blazed like spilled gold on the glass towers. Luxury cars rolled up. Men in Shah RP suits strutted into the sleek new Suleiman Group headquarters. This was Morocco's Wall Street, a place dripping with money, power, and status. Suddenly, a fierce shout shattered the quiet morning. "You old thing! You blind, look at what you did to my shoes." A young man jumped back, furious, staring down at his shiny black Gucci loafers. A few muddy water drops marred the toe, like the worst kind of insult on his perfect shoes. He was yelling at an elderly woman in faded blue cleaner's overalls. A dark blue headscarf framed tired, calm eyes. She knelt, clutching an old mop, silently using a rag to wipe up water from the floor. "Sorry. Sorry." Her voice was thin and shaky, like a dried leaf in the wind. A crowd began to gather. Phones subtly came out to film. Whispers drifted, "That's Suleiman's son, just back from Paris. Word is he makes €1 million a year. Youngest finance hotshot in Morocco." TCH, getting this worked up over a bit of water, but nobody stepped in. Because this guy wasn't anybody, he was Amin Suleiman. Only son of Abdallah Suleiman, the richest man around. The third-generation heir. Elite French boa riding schools, top business degree from HEC Paris, internship at Goldman Sachs London, now home to shine. Everyone called him the future of Morocco. Amin got louder, angrier. "People like you shouldn't even be allowed near this building. Can't even mop a floor. Know what these cost? Worth 30 years of your miserable salary." The old woman kept her head down. Her knuckles were white on the rag. She said nothing, just scrubbed faster. Then, she slowly looked up. Her eyes locked on Amin. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut Shah RP as glass. "You sound just how your father used to sound." The crowd hushed. Amin froze, then sneered. "You knew my father, yeah, right? My father is Mr. Suleiman. You're not even fit to tie his shoelaces." She didn't argue. Just sighed softly and went back to work. "Worthless," Amin spat. He turned Shah RPLY and urged into the gleaming building, his shoes clicking on the marble like victory drums. Crowd broke up, but the buzz didn't stop. Did that cleaner lose her mind? Talking back to a Suleiman she's from Tata province down south, place so poor they haul water on donkeys, but her eyes, weird. She didn't seem SCA red. Not like a normal cleaner. Probably gone senile. Messed with a Suleiman, she'll be lucky to keep her job. Meanwhile, Amin reached his top-floor office. He stood before the panoramic window, looking down on his city. A smug smile touched his lips. He pulled out his phone, posted a picture on Instagram, pristine Gucci shoes planted firmly. On the damp ground, a cleaner's bent back blurred in the background. The caption, "Cleaning out the trash starts with cleaning out the human trash." Hashtag Elite Awakening. Hashtag Morocco needs new blood. Likes exploded instantly. Comments flooded in. Finally. The elite speaking sense. Trash like that need putting in their place. Amin Suleiman. The hope of Morocco. Nobody knew this dumb post was flickering on a fuse, lighting a fire buried deep 30 years ago. Flashback, Tata province, 1990s. Tata. South Morocco. Edge of the Sahara, bone dry land, cracked soil. Villages clung to life around ancient wells. More camels than cars. Berber language spoken more than Arabic. That a Shah RP young businessman, Abdallah Suleiman, came prospecting for his family's mining empire, hunting copper. Slick suit, Toyota Land Cruiser, a big deal in this poor place. He didn't expect to fall for a local woman. Fatima Amal. The village chief's daughter. No fancy degree, but self-taught in Arabic and French. Could recite the Quran, read newspapers. Didn't hide her face. smart clear eyes that looked right at you. Abdella was hooked. They fell in love, married secretly. When Fatima got pregnant, Abdella swore he'd take her to Casablanca. Give her a proper life, but the Suleiman family said no way. Old man Suleiman was old-school aristocracy. Right blood, right family, he believed. Fatima, the poor Berber village girl. Disgrace. They snatched her away. Told everyone she died of illness. Forced Abdella to marry Lala, a rich city girl from the right family. Fatima didn't die. They dumped her in a monastery near Algeria to recover. That's where she gave birth to her son. When the baby was 3 months old. Taken. Gone. She tried finding him, got a sharp warning, make trouble, and you disappear too. She survived. Changed her name. Drifted. Washerwoman. Nanny. Finally found work with a cleaning company in Casablanca. Less than 2,000 dirhams a month, around 1,400 renminbi. Lived in a tin shack on the city's edge. For 30 years, she never stopped sea urching. Every year, she'd haunt the rich neighborhoods, schools, hospitals, scanning young faces. She remembered, a tiny black mole behind the right ear. Like a sesame seed. Until 3 years ago. Sta rooting as a cleaner in that building. The Suleiman Group HQ. She saw Amin Suleiman's photo for the first time, her heart almost stopped, it was him, but she stayed silent. Sca read he wouldn't believe her. Sca read he'd be ashamed. Sca read of wrecking his perfect, elite life. So she watched from afar, saw him strut in and out. Saw people swarm him. Saw his arrogant smile. He was a master Suleiman. She just the cleaner. The gap between them felt wider than the Sahara. Fatima's home was in Hay al-Hailani slum. East Casablanca. No running water. Open sewers. Kids kicked makeshift footballs barefoot in trash piles. Her shack a repurposed shipping container, a furnace in summer, freezing in winter. One faded baby photo hung on the wall, her only son. Beside it a map of Morocco, Tata province circled in red. Every morning at 5, she'd rise, wash her face with rainwater saved from the night, sip mint tea, then walk 2 kilometers to work. Her route passed posh neighborhoods, kids climbing into nanny cars heading to international schools. No envy. She just hoped, her boy, lived well. She knew Amin lived well. What she didn't know, was if he knew, who he was. Tonight, she pulled night shift. The building felt hollow. Just the rhythmic scrape of her mop in the empty halls. She stepped into Amin's office. First time alone in here. Gently opened a drawer, hoping an old photo album slid out from a pile of papers. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Childhood pictures of Amin. But, no mother. Family portraits showed only father Abdella and stepmother Lala, beaming. She kept turning pages. Then, on the last page, tucked away, a blurry, faded photo. A young woman holding a baby, standing by the edge of the desert. The woman's headscarf. It was her style. From back then. Scribbled on the back in faint script, Maman. 1993, Tata. Mom. 1993, Tata. TARS finally dropped onto the photo, so. He knew, or, had his father left this clue suddenly, it hit her. She wasn't mopping a floor anymore. She was sweeping away 30 years of dust. She wasn't wiping up dirty water. She was wiping the grime off a buried truth. She stood up. Looked out through the glass. City lights sparkled like the stars she knew from Tata, but her little corner of the world. Still deep in the dark. Softly, to the bright city where Her son ruled, she whispered, I found you, my son, but look at you now. Next morning. Amin struts into the lobby. A security guard sidles up, looking nervous. Boss, about that cleaner, last night, she was poking around in your office. Amin snorted. Cold fury flashed in his eyes. Typical scum. Can't keep to their place. He waved a dismissive hand. Get HR, fire her. Today. Ding. Just then, the elevator doors slid open. And out stepped Fatima. No cleaner's uniform today. She wore a clean, simple white robe, her headscarf neatly arranged. In her hands, she refully held a steaming glass of mint tea. She walked straight over to Amin, ignoring the stunned Guarod gently. She placed the fragrant tea on his desk. He always loved this tea, she said, her voice steady. Said only a true Moroccan woman knew how to make it right. Amin frowned, confused. What is this? What are you doing? Her eyes met his, holding them. Because I did make it for him. He jumped to his feet, voice rising. You're insane. My mother is Lala Suleiman. Fatima remained utterly calm. Her gaze never wavered. Then maybe, she suggested quietly, you should ask him what he did in Tata province, back in 1993. Without another word, she turned and walked away, but as she reached the doors, she paused. Didn't look back. Her voice, soft as the morning breeze, right across the polished floor, landing with the weight of an anvil. The shame you poured on that cleaner. She paused, it fell on your own blood. Amin froze. All the noise, the lobby chatter, the guard shuffling, vanished. He read down at the untouched mint tea on his desk. He reached out, wrapped his fingers around the hot glass. Suddenly, it felt burning hot. Amin stood frozen in the center of his office, the glass of mint tea still. Clutched in his hand. The liquid shimmered slightly, reflecting a distorted, uneasy version of his own face. Her words, the shame you poured, it fell on your own blood, hammered inside his skull, echoing relentlessly. Clink, he slammed the glass down hard on the desk. Crazy. Psycho, he muttered under his breath. But the words felt hollow, drowned out by a sudden, unexplained panic rising in his chest. Opening his computer to check HR records, he found it. The cleaner's name, Fatima Benar, was already flagged, termination pending. Just yesterday, she'd been a routine employee. He pulled up the security footage from last night. Grainy black and white images showed Fatima in his empty office. Slow, deliberate movements. She opened the drawer, paused, saw the photo album, her hand visibly trembled as she touched it. Amin zoomed in on her face. Those eyes. Calm, deeply weary. Yet unsettlingly familiar. A flicker of memory tugged at him, elusive and unsettling. Who is she? He whispered to the silence of his too bright office. Buzz. His phone vibrated violently. The local forum Casablanca voice blasted a hot notification. Shocking. The cleaner shamed by Suleiman might be his long-lost mother. There it was. That same faded picture, the young woman and the baby by the desert dunes, text screened. Sources reveal Suleiman family buried a secret mariage. 1993, Abdullah Suleiman wed Berber woman Fatima in Tata province. They had a child before being forcibly separated. Baby taken. Mother vanished. Now she returns, as a cleaner. Amin's pulse kicked like a drum. He jabbed to open the comments, POOF. The page vanished. Content removed for violation of community guidelines. User account, deleted. IP address, blocked. He scoffed, forcing a sneer. Pathetic rumors. Got no proof. But that Shah RP. Nagging feeling only dug deeper. Doubt had taken root. Fatima's silence. Fatima stepped into the cramped cleaner's break room. Supervisor Hajim was waiting, looking grim. Fatima. Where were you last night? Why were you in Mr. Amin's office just cleaning? She replied, her voice steady as stone. Enough lies. Hajim hissed, glancing around nervously. The boss spoke. You're out after this month. Keep your head down. Don't make trouble. She didn't argue. Just picked up her mop bucket and headed toward the underground garage. She passed the locker array. Fellow cleaner Ayub quickly pressed a folded scrap of paper into her hand. Someone's digging. BCA refill. Her fingers tightened around the note, damp with sudden sweat. She knew it. The storm she'd brewed was hitting. Strangely, she felt calm. More than she had in decades. 30 years of silence was long enough. That night, in the stifling heat of her tin shack, the single kerosene lamp casting long, flickering shadows, Fatima took out the faded baby photo from beneath her thin mattress. She rubbed its worn edge gently with her thumb. Your mother spoke the truth today, my son. Did you hear? The memory crashed over her, raw as sandpaper on a wound. 30 years ago, cold tile floor, screaming, holding her 3-month-old baby until her fingers cramped. Begging the faceless men pulling him away, just one more moment, just one look. The reply a sharp sting in her arm, chemicals pulling her under. Waking to the lie, the child is dead. She never believed it. Surviving, scraping, breathing, all fueled by the desperate hope to find him. And now she had. Look what became of her baby boy. Arrogant. Cold. Taking joy in crushing others. In crushing her. Her heart felt drier than the oldest desert stone. Amin's doubts. Amin sta root digging. He hauled out old family photo albums. One picture caught his eye, his younger father in the early 90s, surrounded by villagers somewhere dusty, likely the south. Beside him a young woman in a headscarf. Her eyes, clear intelligent. Familiar again. Dad, Amin asked casually later, showing the photo. Who's this woman? Abdullah Suleiman Ba Rely glanced. Ah. A translator. Long gone now. What was her name? Couldn't say. So long ago. Abdullah waved a dismissive hand. But what were you doing down there back then? Tata province, right? Mining surveys. Standa road stuff, son. You know this. Abdullah shut the conversation down, turning back to his papers. Amin wasn't giving up. He called old Ta Rick, the family's retired head steward. Road master. Amin, the master's passed, it's not my place. Ta Rick stammered. But that woman. Fatima, she should never have come back. You know her name? Amin pounced. Silence. Then quietly, some things best forgotten. Now burning with suspicion, Amin accessed the secure company database. Fatima Benner's personnel file name, Fatima Benner place of birth, AMAR village, Tata province. ID number, encrypted, REM-ARKS, recommended by, anonymous, the words Tata province GLA read back at him. His throat felt tight. That very night, Amin drove the gleaming Lexus to the edge of Hay al-Halani. He needed to see where this woman lived. The night was thick and heavy, alive with stray dogs. Ba King. He found the tin shack, a faint light bleeding through a tattered curtain. He crept close, peered through a gap in the metal. Inside, Fatima sat on a low stool. Not cleaning. Gently polishing the faded baby photo with an old cloth. Beside her, tacked to the wall, the map of Morocco. Tata province circled in angry, red ink. And she was singing. Softly. A low, melodic tune. It was a Berber lullaby. A mother's song for her sleeping child. Amin froze. He'd never heard his mother Lala sing like that. Not once in his life. But deep inside, he knew this tune. It felt ancient. Safe. An ache bloomed in his chest. The mint tea ritual. The next morning, Amin stepped off the elevator to find Fatima waiting by his office door. Again, this time, another steaming glass of fresh mint tea sat ready in her hands, its scent sharp and inviting in the sterile hallway air. For you, she said, holding it out. Amin frowned, suspicion thick in his voice. I don't need you buying me off. It's not payment, she corrected, her voice unwavering. It's how a Moroccan mother welcomes her child. She refully placed the glass on his desk, its heat radiating faintly. Your father always said. Only a true Moroccan woman could brew it right. Said the fire must be low. The leaves washed 3 times. The mint, picked fresh. Amin sta red hot rd at her. How do you know my father's exact taste? Because I brewed it for him. He leaned closer, eyes narrowed. What is this really about? What do you want? I don't want your life, she stated simply, meeting his gaze head on. I don't want your money. I don't want a place at your table. Her voice softened slightly, but held steel. I only wanted you to know. The person you tried to grind into that marble floor yesterday. That wasn't just a cleaner. She paused, letting the weight sink in. That was your own route. She turned to leave. Amin lurched 4-way road. Wait. The desperation in his voice riled even himself. That woman, my father, he knew you. Really knew you. Fatima stopped but didn't turn around. Her back was straight. Ask him yourself, Mr. Amin, she said, her voice cutting through the air behind her. Ask him, what was the name of his first wife? The door to the stairwell clicked shut. Amin stood. Alone in the suddenly immense office, the scent of mint sharp in his nose, sweat prickling his palms. Cracks were spiderwebbing through the world he knew. The crack in the world. The very same afternoon, Amin discreetly pocketed the glass Fatima had left on his desk, fingerprint smudges still wet around the rim. He couldn't wait any longer. He needed concrete proof, beyond faded pictures and half-remembered tunes. He sent it to a discreet, expensive private lab. The next 3 days crawled by. Amin paced his penthouse. He leafed frantically through his father's old leather-bound journals, finding several key pages from 1993 neatly torn out. He even tried his stepmother, Lala. Mother, he began Akwe Rdly. Before Father Maridu, was there another woman? Lala Suleiman's face instantly froze, then darkened with anger. Who has been poisoning your mind? Your father has only ever had me. But her eyes, just 4. A flicker, root away. Guilt via Amin couldn't tell. Finally, day 4. The encrypted email arrived. Amin sat in his parked car in the GA rage, hands trembling as he clicked open the PDF report. He scrolled, bypassed technical jargon, sea urching for the core result. Conclusion, Sample A, subject, Fatima Benaur, versus Sample B, subject, Amin Suleiman, results consistent with biological maternity, probability 99.998%. A physical shockwave hit him. Whump. Like a blow to the chest. His phone tumbled from numb fingers, the damning words still blazing on the screen. Gleaming Suleiman Tower, his entire life, suddenly felt like a stage set. Fake. Cold. Stinging CLA righty flooded his mind. Lala, his mother, never held him for long. Never sang. Never made him tea. Not once, but that woman that cleaner knew his father's secret cravings. Knew the cradle song. Remembered the tiny black sesame seed behind his EAR, a detail no one else knew. He fumbled for the phone, scrambled out of the CAR, and ran. Not Tower RDS's office. Down the corridor, he RT hammering, straight to human resources. Fatima. The cleaner, Fatima Benar. Where is she? The HR clerk looked surprised. Ms. Benner, her contract ended yesterday. Not renewed. She's gone. Gone where? Where did she go? Don't know, sir. She didn't leave a four-way writing address. Amin ran next to security, demanding the exit footage from yesterday evening. The grainy security footage showed it, Fatima punching her time card one final time. Walking Tower RDS, the employee exit. A simple cloth bag slung over her shoulder. Slow, steady steps. She pushed the heavy glass door open onto the street. But just before stepping through the frame, she stopped. Turned. Looked back, not at the camera. At the building itself. Her expression wasn't angry. Wasn't sad. Just peaceful. Resolved. Like a debt was settled. Like a burden lifted, then she was gone. Swallowed by the crowd on the sidewalk. Amin collapsed into the Guardi's chair. A profound, hollow emptiness crashed over him, cold and dark. Everything he possessed felt false, everything he had lost felt agonizingly real. Mother's note that same heavy night found Amin back in Hay al-Helani. The darkness felt different now, pressing, accusing. He approached the tin shack. The padlock was gone. Unlatched. He pushed the flimsy door open. Air inside was stale and empty. No lamp glowed. The bed frame was stripped bare. The cherished baby photo was gone. The worn clothes and spa RSE belongings vanished. Only the map of Morocco remained on the wall. That furious red circle around Tata province glowed like a fresh wound in the gloom cast by his phone flashlight. On the small table, anchored by an empty water glass, lay a single piece of paper. Folded neatly, his hands shook as he unfolded it. The handwriting was ca refill, elegant Arabic script. My child, I did not come here to claim any part of your life. I only wanted to see your face. To know that you breathed. That you were whole. Now I have seen. May Allah protect you always, my Suleiman. Emma, mother. Amin dropped to his knees on the cold, packed EARTH floor of the shack. All the polished marble of his world vanished. He bent four-way forehead almost touching the dusty ground, shoulders convulsing. Sobs, raw and ragged, tore from him. Not the controlled TRS of the powerful. The desperate, abandoned wails of the child who just discovered he was truly lost. He finally understood, with bone-deep certainty, the woman he'd tried to step on, the cleaner she was his mother, commoner he'd mocked and shamed she gave him his life. The woman. He thought beneath him she was where he began. He lifted his head finally, wiping his face on his sleeve. SMEA ring dust and TRS, STA ring out the open door into the vast, STA less Casablanca night. A fierce resolve ignited within him. He had to find her, because he owed her apologies. Though he did, a debt he could never fully repay, not just to right the wrongs, though mountains of wrongs needed righting, because he knew, deep in the marrow of his newly fractured bones. Finding her was now the only way to find who he really was. Amin knelt in the empty tin shack, his mother's note crumpled in his fist. TRS splattered onto the word Imma, mother. Outside, the hot, gritty wind of the slum slapped the thin metal walls, like thousands of tiny hands rapping on his conscience. It finally crashed over him. He hadn't humiliated a cleaner, he'd humiliated his mother. He hadn't stomped on a wet spot, he'd stomped on 30 years of blood and TRS. He pushed himself up, wiping his face roughly with the sleeve of his expensive shirt. Something shifted behind his eyes. The polished PA-RIS elite mask shattered. What looked back from the dusty reflection in the tin wall was just a sun. Lost. Sea urching desperately for where he began. I'm going to Tata, he said aloud, the words tasting strange and right. The road through the Sahara at dawn the next day. Amin didn't go to the office. He pulled on simple cotton trousers and a long shirt, tugged a wide-brimmed hat low over his face, and rented a beat-up old Toyota Land Cruiser. He drove out of Casablanca alone. The smooth highway became a rough gravel track. Glittering towers shrank and vanished behind him. He passed through Agadir, crossed the Sioux Plains, pushed further south. The land rose, grew harsher. Green faded to dusty gold. The sky blazed. White sand whipped across the windshield. The radio crackled, low, mournful Berber folk songs drifted out. Songs that felt like a mother's whispered comfort. He drove for 2 solid days. On the third morning, as the sun stained the eastern sky orange, he reached Ama-Ar village, Tata province. The village was smaller than he'd pictured. Ba-Rely more than a dozen mud brick houses clung to the base of low, brown hills. A few camels slumped lazily in the scant shade. Ba-Rafut children chased each other in the dust. Nea-Ar the village well. A handful of old men sat on low stones in the shade, passing a bubbling water pipe. Amin climbed out. He approached them, speaking French. Excuse me, could you tell me where to find the chief? One elder squinted up at him, taking in the city dust coating his rented car. Outsider. What brings you here? I'm looking for a woman called Fatima Amal. Amin swallowed. She's my mother. The old man jerked upright as if struck. Fatima, she's alive. You knew her. She was our chief's daughter, the old man rasped, his voice thick with emotion. 30 years back, men from the Suleiman family came. Took her away. Told us she died of sickness. But she didn't. She lives. Where is she? Amin's chest tightened. She was in Casablanca. But she read. I came to find where she came from. Who she was. The old man trembled. Come, he said, his voice cracking. He pushed himself up, leaning heavily on a walking stick. Follow me. His name was Mustafa, the village chief when it all happened. He led Amin around the edge of the dwindling village to the back. There, half swallowed by the encroaching desert, stood the ruins of a mud brick hut. Its roof had caved in, the doorframe sagged, dried vines strangled the crumbling walls like forgotten serpents. This was her place, Mustafa said. Gesturing weakly. The day they dragged her off, the whole village knelt here. Pleading. Begging. But who stops the Suleimans? He looked haunted. She screamed for the baby. My child. He's so small. But the child, he was ripped away too. Amin stood frozen before the doorway. He could almost see it, the struggle, the grief, the terror. He crouched down, running his fingers over a crude scratch on the weathered wood frame. Beside it, faded numbers, 1993. What is this? Amin whispered, his throat thick. Mustafa closed his eyes. She measured the boy every 3 months. Mav ked his height. His voice was a whisper. The last Mark, the baby was only 3 months old. Amin's TRS fell silently onto the dusty ground at his feet. Proof in the ledger. Mustafa led Amin back to his own house, simple but neat. He poured strong, sweet mint tea into small glasses. His eyes kept flicking. To Amin's face, you look like her father, he finally said, his gaze settling. Strong bones. And the EARS, especially the little Mark behind the right EAR. Amin froze. How do you know about the mole? Mustafa didn't answer directly. He shuffled over to a heavy wooden chest, dug beneath folded blankets, and pulled out a book. Not some modern ledger, but a thick, ancient-looking tome. The leather cover was cracked and stained. The Berber clan record. He ruefully opened it. The pages were brittle, dense with entries, Arabic script mingled with older Tifinagh Berber symbols. Mustafa gently turned brittle pages, his GNA-led finger tracing down WRD. Then stopped. He pointed. Amin leaned close. It wasn't elegant print. It was handwritten, the ink faded but clear. Fatima Amal. Born, 1970. M.A. Ride, Abdullah Suleiman, 1992. And below that, son, Suleiman Abdullah. Born, 15 March 1993. Amin stopped breathing. His real name wasn't Amin. It was Suleiman. His birth date matched his official records perfectly. His mother was Fatima Amal. This book, Amin stammered, touching the sacred page reverently. How did it survive? Why didn't anyone know they came? Mustafa said wearily. The Suleiman men. Right after Fatima and the child were stolen. They took the Riyaj papers. Burned them here, in the SQUA remade us swear silence. He tapped the ancient ledger. But this stays with the chief. Buried deep. They never found the heart of us. Amin held the heavy book. Its weight felt insignificant next to the truth at Ca Ride, but his hands shook violently. 30 years of polished lies, shattered by a book hiding in an then hole. Is there? Amin forced the words out. Is there any trace, where she might have gone after they took her? Anything? Mustafa. Sighed, sta ring into the past. They said, sent her away. North. NEA are the Algerian line. Some say, to a lonely place. Cebu Monastery. That's all he rode. It was deathly quiet, and far. He looked at Amin, eyes filled with old grief. Maybe she ended her days there. Amin grasped the name like a lifeline. Cebu Monastery. He clutched the book against his chest, bowed low to the old chief, the gesture deep with respect. Thank you. For keeping the truth. Confrontation. Casablanca. Amin drove through the night, back to the city. He didn't go to his penthouse. He drove straight to his father's fortress-like villa in the wealthiest quarter. He burst into the vast, mahogany-paneled study where Abdullah Suleiman was reading reports. Amin slammed the ancient Berber ledger down on the desk. It landed with a heavy, accusing thud. Fatima Amal. Who is she? Amin demanded, his voice low and dangerous. Abdullah flinched. His face drained of color, then hardened. Who told you that name? The chief of her village. Amin exploded. He stabbed his finger onto the brittle page. His book. You ride her. You fathered me with her. Why have you lied to me for 30 years? Abdullah slumped back into his chair. Long seconds stretched into silence, thick as desert heat. Finally, he spoke, his voice like gravel. It was what was needed. He avoided his son's furious gaze. Lala, she gave you position, connections, an international pedigree. Fatima. He waved a dismissive hand, steeped in ingrained prejudice. She was a village woman. From Tata. Our family, they would never. So you had her killed off on paper, Amin Roa read, leaning over the desk. Left her to sweep floors, live in a tin box while your son insulted her on Instagram. I gave her money. Abdullah snapped back defensively. Enough to live quietly. Comfortably, even. Amin laughed, aha rsh, bitter sound. She didn't want your damn money, father. His voice cracked. She wanted her son. She wanted dignity. The argument raged, decades of toxic privilege and cold calculation boiling over. Amin finally turned, slamming the heavy study door so the ancestral portraits rattled on the walls. He walked out of the gilded cage that had been his home, vowing never to step back into that life built on deceit. The report that changed everything the next day, Amin called an emergency BOA RD meeting. Senior executives, many his uncles or cousins, sat stunned as he played shaky video footage from Tata village. He projected images of the ancient Berber ledger on the law RGE screen. His voice was raw, powerful, stripped ba. I'm dissolving Project Titan, he announced, naming the family's biggest, most prestigious initiative. All discretionary spending stops. Instead, we divert capital. He paused, looking every stunned face in the eye. To launch the Fatima Foundation. Focus, girls' education in the Deep South. Health initiatives. Dignified wages and housing for all the people who clean our shiny towers. The room erupted. Amin. You mad? Think of the reputation. Suleiman Group will be a laughingstock. You can't tear down the family legacy. Amin just smiled, cold and a reputation. He leaned four-way road. What reputation does a family built on erasing women and hiding children truly have? He let the silence crackle. The freeze stands. I move nothing until I find my mother. He walked out, leaving the Boa Rud room buzzing in shock and panicked ruins of Cebu. A week later, Amin stood not in a sleek Boa Rud room, but in the desolate, wind-scoured foothills marking the Moroccan-Algerian border. The private investigator had found the location, Cebu Monastery. Now, all that remained were jagged fingers of crumbling stone walls clawing at an indifferent sky. Wind howled through hollow arches like voices crying in a dead language. Fatima. Amin screamed into the emptiness, his voice raw. Emma. Mother. I'm here. It's me. No answer but the sighing wind and the skitter of desert pebbles. Picked his way through the rubble. A broken archway. A half-buried cellar. A skeleton of a room where a Heartwarming might have been. Then, wedged behind a fallen lintel in a room that might have once been a tiny cell, a small, roughly made wooden chest. Plain, warped by time. Not buried, but hidden. His hands trembled as he pried off the weathered lid. Inside a tiny, faded knitted cap in a washed-out blue. A pair of booties, impossibly small, the leather stiff and cracked. A headscarf, plain cotton, faded blue, the pattern long since worn away. And beneath them a small notebook. Soft leather cover, wrinkled with age. Unbound pages held tight by a worn leather thong. Amin sank onto a rubble-strewn floor. He unwound the thong with unsteady fingers. The writing inside was neat, flowing Arabic, penned in faded ink. It was Fatima's diary. 15 Avril 1993. They took him today. The child. My tiny boy. I screamed until my throat bled. They held me down. I know he lives. I will find him. If it takes my whole life. 12:8. Casablanca. I clean the big buildings now. Today, I saw a photograph, a glossy magazine on a desk. A young man. A pas Rudy, champagne. The angle, but behind the right EAR, a small, d'arc spot. Just like his father has. Like my baby had. Could it? My heart stopped then sta root again, so loud they must have erode. But it must be him. My Suleiman. 3 October 2023 I saw him. Face to face at last. Tall. Polished like marble. Shining shoes. Looking past me like I was dust. But when he glanced, I saw his eyes. The shape, the color, the very way he frowned. My bones knew. This child, this angry, magnificent, blind man, came from me. I did not speak. What mother would? How could I step into that bright, Shah-RP world he rules and shatter it? Better he stays blind. Better he stays rich and powerful. I only wish I could see him live. 10 October 2023. He poured his anger onto me today. Publicly. Called me less than the dirt he walks on. Laughed. Called me trashed. I understand. How could he know I didn't come here to take anything? I didn't come to claim my rightful place. I came only so he knew that wherever he walks, however high he climbs, he had a mother who never stopped waiting. Amin bowed his head over the precious pages. The sobs that tore from him were primal, deep shuddering gasps wrenched from a core newly cracked open. He clutched the little book, pressing it to his forehead, his heart smelling the faint, lingering scent of dry desert and impossible hope. Imani. He choked, the ancient word for mother tasting holy on his lips. Imma. I'm here. I came. Imma. Found he was packing the fragile treasures reefily into his bag, ready to see RCH further, when shuffling steps sounded outside the ruined doorway. An old shepherd, face a network of wrinkles, his flock bleeding nearby, peered in cautiously. You seek Fatima? The old man asked, his voice thin. Amin's head snapped up. Yes. Have you seen her? The old man nodded slowly, understanding dawning. She sits near that big boulder. Looks east. Most days. Past 2 days, she wasn't weeping. She seemed quiet. Strong. Said she had watched long enough. Said her feet took her back home. Home to Tata. To the first house. He gestured vaguely south. Going back to where the child sta root. Amin didn't wait. He was in the Land Cruiser, tires spitting sand, before the shepherd finished speaking. Driving back the way he had just come, pushing the creaking Toyota harder than it had ever been pushed. Homecoming our village. He reached our village again as the sun dipped low, painting the low hills in deep reds and purples. Shadows stretched long. The ruined hut crouched under the vast, darkening sky. The sagging door was slightly ajar. His heart hammering against his ribs, Amin pushed the heavy, weathered wood door open. Dust motes danced in the long slashes of fading light filtering through the broken roof. The air smelled of dry earth and forgotten yars. An oil lamp flickered weakly in a far corner. Silhouetted against the faint light, sitting on a simple reed mat on the packed earth floor was Fatima. She wore her plain white robe. Her headscarf was neat. In her lap, held gently between work-worn hands, rested the faded baby photo. She looked up slowly, seeing Amin standing framed in the doorway, silhouetted by the dying sun. There was no surprise in her deep, calm eyes. Only deep, settled peace. You found me, she said simply. Amin stumbled 4-way road. He sank to his knees before her in the dust, like his ancestors might have before an elder. TRS streamed freely down his cheeks, cutting tracks through the fine desert grit that coated his skin. Imma. He choked, the Berber word breaking as he spoke it. I am your son. I failed. I shamed you. I didn't know you. The words tumbled out, raw and broken. Fatima Refully set the photograph aside on the mat. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached out. She touched his cheek. Just below the eye. Light as a feather. An echo of a touch 30 years lost. The touch reserved only for a mother's child. My boy. Her voice was soft, strong as roots digging deep. I do not blame. How could I? She touched the TR path. You just lost your root for a while. That ground. She gestured vaguely. Tawa RDS, the distant, invisible city glittering hundreds of miles north, it eats names. Now. A faint light came into her eyes. You found it again. She reached into the fold of her robe. Pulled out a small object. An ancient bronze ring, its design simple, worn smooth by decades of hands. She took his right hand, curled his fingers gently, and slid the ring onto his finger. It felt heavy. An anchor. This belonged to your grandfather, she said quietly. Now, it belongs to you. In the quiet gloom of the ruined house, under shafts of moonlight beginning to pierce the broken roof, mother and son embraced. The embrace held the weight of 30 lost years, the fragility of newfound truth, and the fierce, bone-deep recognition neither had to believe possible. The wind outside picked up, rhying snatches of a distant desert song. Fine sand skittered across the doorway stones, whispering across time. Amin didn't rush back to Casablanca. He stayed in Tata with his mother. They lived simply in a small, intact room of the chief's house Mustafa made available. He revened to brew mint tea. The real way. Low fire. 3 rinses. Fresh mint. He revened the Berber words. He revened to say Kemal Akil, I love you. Together, they clear red rubble from the old hut. Amin hauled stones, revened the rhythm of work that meant something. On the last morning, they planted a young olive tree in a corner where the room had once been. A promise to grow, to endure. They stood looking at the fragile sapling in the harsh dawn light. Fatima spoke, her eyes fixed on her son. You can go back. To your city world. Your tall tower. She turned to him. But promise me one thing. Promise. You're Imma. She held his gaze. Don't step on people to climb. Not ever. Her voice was gentle, but its core was forged steel. You are my son. You are Suleiman, son of Fatima, daughter of Amal. You are not their master Suleiman anymore. Amin looked at the small tree, at his mother's face lined by the desert and suffering and impossible hope. He placed his hand over the bronze ring resting against his heart. I am Suleiman Abdullah Amal, he said, his voice steady and sure. He met his mother's eyes. ICARRY, the name of where I came from. He understood now, true awakening didn't start with graduating top of his class in Paris. True awakening began here. In the stark simplicity of this village. Nurtured by the salt of his mother's TRS. A second birth. Reborn from the dust of Tata. Dawn in Tata province. Sunlight gilded the soft new leaves on the young olive tree. Amin knelt before the small, rebuilt patch of EARTHNEA are the old hut, digging rhythmically. Scrape. Thud. The scrape of metal on bone-dry EARTH. Fatima sat on a low stool by the doorway, watching him quietly. A soft smile touched her lips, perhaps her first real one in 30 years. Rest if you're tired, she said gently. Not tired. Amin wiped sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. He looked up at her. I never lifted a real tool before. Not like this. His gesture took in the rough ground, the work. Never knew how heavy each step of that 2-kilometer walk to work every morning must have felt for you. All those years. Fatima nodded slowly, her gaze softening. The body grows tired, it heals. The heavy weight, the one inside. She placed a hand lightly over her heart, an empty heart. That's the killer. Now. The smile deepened slightly. Now, it's full. They knew it was time. Time to return to Casablanca. Not chasing riches. This time. Going back to plant truth. The night before the words that night, back in the city house that felt less and less like home, Amin didn't sleep. He sat at a simple desk in the borrowed study, writing, crossing out, rewriting. He wasn't crafting a polished speech anymore. He was fighting to shape an apology. A confession. The words of a son reclaiming his mother's name and her stolen dignity. He picked up the phone. Called the biggest network. I need a live broadcast tomorrow, he stated flatly. Prime time. What's the topic, Mr. Suleiman? Merger acquisition. My mother, Amin said, the word solid in the quiet room. A cleaner. News exploded. Social media lost its mind. What's happening at Suleiman Group? They broke. Amin went crazy in the slums. Announcing his cleaning lady mother madness. The broadcast by the time Amin walked out onto the makeshift stage before the Soa Ring Suleiman Tower the next day, the plaza was jammed. Reporters with cameras jostling. Employees whispering. Curious citizens. Even a small, determined group who'd traveled all the way from Tata village. Amin wasn't Ring Armani. A simple, clean white jalaba covered him. No gold Rolex. In his hands not a tablet, but two fragile things, the worn Berber clan ledger and the faded baby photo of himself. He took a deep breath that echoed across the silent plaza, amplified over the live broadcast airing nationwide. Today, his voice, stripped clear I have come to offer my deepest, most necessary apology. To one person. To a cleaner. The silence thickened. You could hear a pin drop on Marbli. Her name is Fatima Amal. In 1993, in Tata province. She gave birth to me. She is my birth mother. And I stood before her. Pointed at her. Called her worthless. Told her she didn't deserve to live. He gestured. Massive screens flickered to life. There it was, high-def security footage. The sleek Gucci loafer he'd worn like a mare. Him shouting at the bent figure in blue. His sneer. Her bowed head. Then the screens shifted, the brittle pages of the Tata clan record under HRSH studio lights. Fatima Amal. M.A. Ride, Abdullah Suleiman. Son, Suleiman Abdullah. Scanned images from the crumbling Jari found at Cebu Monastery. Cold, clinical text, the DNA report. Probability of maternity, 99.998%, he told them everything. The secret mariage. His birth. The kidnapping, his, then hers. The cover-up, death by illness. Her survival. Decades of sea urchin. Living in the tin shack. Finding him. His cruelty. Finding her. I thought, an expensive PA degree, €1 million salary cars that cost more than houses. He shook his head slowly, looking not at the cameras. But INWA road. I thought that was success. Power. He paused, the raw memory hitting fresh. Then. I saw it. The image switched again, his CGI recreation of a woman's hand polishing a faded baby photo in a dim, BA room. My mother. In her home. Holding my image. Loving the thing I had become. That was when I finally understood. His voice dropped, heavy, weighted with newfound CLA righty. True worth doesn't shine from your shoes. It lives in your conscience. He turned, his gaze sweeping the crowd, hitting the camera lenses. He spoke his decisions like promises cut from stone. Wanda, we launched the Fatima Foundation today. First commitment, 50 million dirhams, about $6 million US. For girls' schools in the Deep South. Scholarships for the children of cleaners and service workers. 2. Effective immediately, every cleaner, every security guard, every kitchen worker, every driver in every Suleiman Group building they are full-time employees. Salah rise doubled. Health insurance. Housing assistance. 3. And I. Amin Suleiman. I move out of my family home this week. I am going to live in her home. The tin house in Hay al-Helani. He met the stunned silence head-on. I need to learn how to be just a son. Just a man. A Moroccan man. Again. From the ground up. Quiet murmurs rippled. Then, a woman in the crowd touched her hijab, TRS streaming. Another lifted her hands in prayer. Then applause sta root. Not polite clapping. A rolling wave of sound. Grateful. Respectful. Healing. Found, again, but Amin didn't linger for the praise. As soon as the cameras cut, he was moving. His lead investigator had sent fresh coordinates, not Tata. Back north. Tawa RDS the Algerian border. Tawa RDS Cebu again. Fatima Amal. Spotted yesterday, sweeping the old church steps at Cebu Monastery. 3 days later, we rebut driven, Amin pushed through the ancient stone archway into the desolate monastery courtier road. There she was. Beneath the vast, empty sky. Bent slightly over an ancient straw broom. Slowly, patiently, sweeping fine dust and sand from cracked flagstones. That familiar deep blue headscarf tied securely around her hair and shoulders. He ran. TRS already blurring his vision. He didn't see who saw. He dropped to his knees right on the stones before her, in the path she'd just swept clear. He looked up at her face, weathered, strong, and impossibly beloved. He spoke the words he'd practiced 1,000 miles ago, in the Berber tongue she'd sung to him before memory began. ***, mother, he breathed, the word sacred. **Ronnie Ibnik star. It's me, your son. **Anemer Iwan star. I have come home to you. Fatima's hand stilled on the broom handle. Slowly, deliberately. She untied the knotted ends. She gently pulled the blue headscarf away. The unfiltered desert sunlight washed over her face, revealing every line etched by time, hardship, and unwavering love. It caught the bright TRS welling in her deep, dark eyes that had watched the horizon for 30 years. 30 years of wind-scoured silence. 30 years of aching hope. 30 years of keeping her truth folded tight within her like the headscarf itself. All of it dissolved in that moment. Not in shouts or wails. In the quiet, sacred flood tracing paths down her cheeks. She reached out, her work-roughened hand cupping the side of his damp face. Just as she had when he was the tiny baby whose height she marked on a wooden door frame. A touch heavy with recognition, forgiveness, and the unimaginable grace of found things. *IUIW, Suleiman IW*, she whispered, her voice thick with unspeakable joy. My light. My Suleiman. *Ansif Yisan star. Welcome home. 1 year later, the green shoots spring came EARLY to Tata province. Outside the newly built gates of the Fatima Girls' School, clean white walls, sky blue doors, wide dusty courtier already filled with the shouts of children chasing a ball, the olive tree they'd planted was taller. Its leaves a brighter green. Inside a bright classroom, girls in crisp blue uniforms chanted lessons in Tamazight, Berber, and Arabic, their voices like a hopeful breeze. Fatima Amal, no longer in a cleaner's blue uniform but in elegant, simple robes, moved among them as school counselor. Her presence calm, grounded, fiercely proud. She still visited the gleaming Suleiman Tower. Not to scrub floors. To sit in on meetings about the cleaner's new health clinic opening downstairs. I don't need my son's money, she'd tell anyone who asked, a quiet fire in her eyes. I need to see him know where he fits in this world. Where he sta root. Amin stood nearby in the Choulier RD, chatting with young teachers. His PA wrist-polished hair was gone, cut close. His Seville row suits hung forgotten. He favored simple cotton tunics and trousers most days. He came south every week, sometimes teaching the kids French phrases, sometimes sitting with the village elders, slowly learning the rhythm and richness of Tamazight, the language of his blood. His book, Beneath the Headscarf, Finding My Mother, Finding Myself, wasn't just a bestseller. It was sparking uncomfortable conversations across the country. A curious little girl from the village, standing near the new olive tree, tilted her head up at Amin, now often called Suleiman. Suleiman uncle, she asked, shyly. Is it true, your Imma was a cleaner? Amin knelt right down, meeting her gaze at eye level. Yes, he said clearly, without a flicker of shame. She was. She swept away 30 years of dust. 30 years of ignored truth. The little girl thought hard, her small brow furrowed. Did it make you feel small? A slow, genuine smile spread across his face. He reached out, gently touched the child's braid. No, he said, his voice steady, strong. It taught me what real pride feels like. Because she taught me. He paused, choosing words this child would understand, words carrying the weight of a hard-won lesson. It's not what you wear on your feet that holds you up. He glanced down at his own simple sandals. It's how low you can bend your knee to honor the ground you come from. The symbol unfolds as the wind picked up, dust dancing in the sunshine. Suleiman straightened. He saw his mother standing a little way off near the school gate, looking towards the distant mountains. The sun beat down, and bright Fatima reached into the folds of her dress. She pulled out the familiar deep blue headscarf. With practiced, unhurried movements, she lifted it, arranged it securely over her hair and shoulders once more. Not with haste. With ceremony. With pride. Suleiman watched. The city seemed far away now. And in that simple action, he saw what the whole country, perhaps, was finally learning to see, that headscarf it wasn't a hiding place. It was a crown. It wasn't backwardness. It was a map. It wasn't silence. It was strength forged in fire and patience. A gust tugged at the edge of the blue cloth as Fatima turned towards the sound of children's laughter drifting from the classroom. It caught the wind, rippling like a banner. And people finally saw, beneath that headscarf walked a mother. And beneath the mother, beat the heart of a nation finally remembering its conscience.